Thanksgiving 2011. The smell of cornbread stuffing and sweet potato pie should have meant comfort, but in our cramped Baltimore duplex, it meant performance. I was 17, sitting at that wobbly dining table Mom got from Goodwill, watching my stepsister Brianna, 2 years younger than me, twirl car keys like she'd won the lottery. 2008 Lexus 330, my stepdad Eduardo announced, chest puffed out like he'd just bought her a Bentley. My mom, Noelle, smiled that tight smile I'd learned meant don't start nothing. But something in me cracked. I'd been working at Foot Locker since sophomore year, saving every dollar, riding 2 buses to school while Brianna got dropped off. I asked the question that changed everything: how come Brianna gets a car when I've been asking for help with one for 2 years? The table went silent. Eduardo's fork stopped midway to his mouth. His jaw clenched, that vein in his forehead pulsing. What did you just say? I repeated it. Karma. That's when he slammed his hand down, rattling plates. Real sons don't ask questions like that. Real sons appreciate what they got. The words hit different. Real sons. Like I wasn't real enough. My mom touched his arm, whispered Eduardo, please, but her eyes told me to back down. I looked at Brianna, expecting something, guilt, maybe, but she just smirked, dangling those keys. Something inside me shifted. I stood up, grabbed my own keys to the 1994 Corolla I'd scraped together money for, and headed for the door. Miguel, sit down. Mom's voice cracked, but I kept walking. Eduardo stood up, his 6'3" frame blocking the narrow hallway. You walk out that door on Thanksgiving, don't bother coming back. I stopped, turned. That's funny, Eduardo, because I've been planning not to come back since you told everyone at your brother's barbecue that I wasn't really your son anyway. His face went red. That July cookout, 3 months earlier, still burned. I'd overheard him tell his brother Evan that he only dealt with me because he loved my mom, that I was Noelle's baggage from that deadbeat. I never told Mom. She'd married Eduardo when I was 12, after my dad died from complications from diabetes. She'd been so lonely, working double shifts as a nursing assistant. Eduardo seemed stable, government job, owned his duplex, treated her decent at first. But the mask slipped slowly. It started with small things: Brianna's private school tuition versus my public school, her bedroom furniture from Ashley versus my hammer-down setup, her college fund versus my you can get loans lectures. Now, standing in that hallway, turkey getting cold behind us, I saw it clearly. I'm not your son, I said quietly. You made that clear. But I'm not baggage either. I walked past him. Behind me, Brianna laughed, actually laughed. Guess he's sensitive, she said. That laugh followed me out into the cold November night, into my beat-up Corolla, into the next 12 years of my life. I drove to my boy Austin's apartment in West Baltimore, hands shaking on the wheel. Austin had been my anchor since middle school, the brother I chose when my family chose otherwise. His mom, Miss Gloria, took one look at my face and made up the couch without questions. That night, lying under her crocheted blanket, I made a decision. I wasn't going back. Not to beg, not to apologize, not ever. Monday came. I moved my essential stuff out while they were at work: clothes, my laptop, my dad's watch, the photo album Mom kept of him. I left a note: since real sons don't ask questions, I won't ask when I'll see you again. Take care. Mom called 17 times that first week. I didn't answer. She texted, baby, please come home. We can talk about this. But she didn't say Eduardo was wrong. She didn't say she'd stand up for me. She said we can talk, like I was the problem. Eduardo never called. Not once. By December, I'd enrolled at Baltimore Community College, taking night classes while working full-time at Foot Locker. My manager, Mr. Coleman, an older black man who'd built his own business before, noticed my hustle. You got something in you, young brother, he said. Something hungry. Channel that. I channeled it into economics courses, business books from the library, and a burning need to prove I wasn't baggage. I wasn't nothing. January 2012, I saw Mom at the grocery store. She looked smaller somehow. Miguel, please. It's been 2 months. I asked her one question: Did Eduardo apologize? Her silence answered. I walked away. By spring 2012, I'd moved into an efficiency apartment in Pigtown, $450 a month, barely bigger than a closet, but mine. I picked up a second job doing inventory at a warehouse. 18 years old, working 60-hour weeks, carrying a full course load. My body ached, but my mind stayed sharp, fueled by spite that slowly transformed into ambition. Miss Gloria checked on me weekly, bringing Tupperware containers of food. Your mama asks about you, she'd say gently. I'd nod, say nothing. What was there to say? In my business ethics class, Professor Reynolds, a Howard University grad who'd started 3 companies, saw something in my final project, a proposal for affordable logistics solutions in underserved communities. This is good, Miguel. Really good. You thinking about transferring to a 4-year? I was thinking about survival, but I said yes. He connected me with a scholarship program at Morgan State. By fall 2012, I was there, studying supply chain management, still working both jobs. The hunger that Eduardo tried to shame out of me became fuel. That Thanksgiving, exactly 1 year after I left, Mom called. I answered. Finally. We're having dinner at 3, she said, voice hopeful. Eduardo said, he said you can come if you want. If I want. If I apologize for existing, more likely. Is Brianna still driving that Civic? I asked. Well, yes, but, then I'm good. Happy Thanksgiving, Mom. I hung up, stared at my economics textbook, and got back to work. What I didn't know, that phone call would be our last conversation for 8 years. Morgan State became my proving ground. I graduated in 2015 with a 3.8 GPA, job offers from 3 logistics companies, and a chip on my shoulder the size of Baltimore. I chose a startup called QuickRoute, took a lower salary for equity, a gamble everyone said was stupid. 6 months in, I'd redesigned their routing algorithm, cutting delivery times by 30%. The CEO, a Jamaican immigrant named Marlene Simmons, pulled me into her office. You're not just an analyst, Miguel. You're a builder. What do you actually want to do? I told her the truth, revolutionize last-mile delivery in underserved urban areas, the neighborhoods where people paid more for worse service. She gave me a team of 3 and 6 months to build a pilot program. We launched in East Baltimore, the neighborhood where I grew up. The irony wasn't lost on me, serving the community my stepdad said would never amount to nothing. By 2016, our pilot was outperforming every metric. I was 23, making 6 figures, and still driving that 1994 Corolla out of principle. One evening, I saw Brianna at Harbor East, some upscale bar. She didn't recognize me in my suit, not at first. When she did, her eyes widened. Miguel? Oh my God, I heard you were, like, doing okay or whatever. Doing okay. I was designing systems that would eventually serve millions. Yeah, something like that. How's the Civic? Her smile faltered. Actually, Dad bought me an Accord last year. The Civic had too many miles. Of course he did. That's great, Brianna. Tell Eduardo I said hey. I walked away, feeling nothing. That emptiness was power. In 2017, QuickRoute got acquired by a major logistics corporation for $42 million. My equity stake netted me $2.3 million after taxes. At 24 years old, I was a millionaire, and the people who called me baggage had no idea I existed. I could have called Mom then, could have shown up, proved something. But prove what? That I was worthy of basic decency? I didn't need their validation anymore. Instead, I invested $1 million into my own company, Urban Logics, focusing on same-day delivery infrastructure in neglected zip codes. I hired people like me, hungry, overlooked, underestimated. By 2018, we had contracts in 7 cities. I moved to Atlanta for the business climate, bought a modest house in Cascade Heights, kept my head down and my ambition loud. That's when I met Simone at a tech conference. She was presenting on AI integration in supply chains, sharp as a razor, beautiful, from Houston. We clicked immediately. 3 months later, she was my girlfriend, my sounding board, My reminder that family could be chosen. "You ever gonna tell me about your parents?" she asked one night, curled up on my couch. "Not much to tell. I don't talk to them." She didn't push, just held my hand. That's love, knowing when to let silence speak. Meanwhile, Urban Logics was blowing up. Forbes started reaching out for interviews. Business Insider featured us. I stayed camera shy, letting my COO handle press. I wasn't ready. Then, in early 2019, we landed a partnership with Amazon for underserved market delivery. The deal was huge, game-changing. Forbes insisted they wanted the founder's story for their 30 Under 30 issue. The Forbes photo shoot was surreal. Standing in our Atlanta warehouse, surrounded by delivery trucks bearing my company's logo, photographer snapping away. They wanted the hometown hero angle, asked about Baltimore, about my journey. I gave them the sanitized version. Single mother, worked hard, built something meaningful. They didn't need to know about Eduardo, about Thanksgiving 2011, about the 12 years of silence. The issue dropped in December 2019. My face, full page, with the headline, "Miguel Lopez, 26, is revolutionizing urban delivery." The article detailed Urban Logics' valuation, estimated at $75 million, and my commitment to equitable access. My phone exploded. Investors, reporters, old classmates. Austin called, laughing. "Bro, you did it. You really did it." Miss Gloria cried when I sent her a copy. "Your daddy would be so proud." But from Baltimore? Silence. I knew they'd seen it. In 2019, everyone saw Forbes. Mom was on Facebook. I'd checked her page once, years back. Brianna was on Instagram, posting her whole life. They knew. They just didn't reach out. That hurt different than I expected. I'd imagined this moment, them seeing my success, them realizing their mistake, them crawling back. But when it actually happened, I felt empty. Simone noticed. "You thought they'd call," she said softly. I nodded. "Stupid, right?" "Not stupid. Human." She was right, but it still stung. Then, 3 weeks after the Forbes issue, my phone rang. Unknown Baltimore number. My hand hovered over decline. But curiosity, that dangerous thing, made me answer. "Miguel." Mom's voice, older, shakier. "Baby, we saw the magazine." The silence stretched between us like the 8 years since our last real conversation. "Mom," I said, my voice carefully neutral. Simone squeezed my hand, gave me space. "I can't believe. I mean, we had no idea you were doing so well." Forbes magazine. Miguel. I showed everyone at the hospital. Everyone. Not I'm sorry. Not I was wrong. Just pride in my accomplishments now that they were public, validated, worth bragging about. "Who's we?" I asked, though I knew. "Me and Eduardo. And Brianna, of course. We're all so proud of you, baby." That word, proud. It ignited something volcanic in my chest. "Proud," I repeated slowly. "You're proud." Where was that pride when I was 17, working 2 jobs, taking 2 buses to school? Where was it when Eduardo said real sons don't ask questions? Her breath caught. "Miguel, that was so long ago. Eduardo was just having a bad day. You know he didn't mean 8 years, Mom. 8 years since I heard your voice. You called once in all that time, one time, and it was to invite me to a dinner Eduardo said I could attend if I wanted. Like I needed permission to exist in your life. That's not fair, baby. You're the one who left. You're the one who wouldn't answer my calls at first, who wouldn't come home." There it was. The victim narrative. I'd abandoned them. I'd chosen this distance. Never mind that Eduardo created the conditions. Never mind that she chose him over me every single time. "Is there something you need, Mom?" My voice had gone cold, professional. She hesitated, and in that pause, I heard the truth before she spoke it. "Well, Brianna's getting married in June. She wanted We wanted you to know. We'd love for you to come. Of course. Not I miss you. Not I'm sorry. An invitation to perform family for Brianna's wedding. To show up and pretend 8 years of abandonment never happened. She wanted me to know, I said. Did she want to call herself, or were you elected spokesperson? Miguel, don't be like that. She's your sister. Half-sister. And from what I remember, she thought it was hilarious when I left. Did that change, or does she just want her Forbes featured brother in the wedding photos? That is so unfair. She was 15, just a child. I was 17 and working 2 jobs, but I wasn't child enough for basic respect. The conversation was spiraling, but I couldn't stop. 8 years of words, unsaid, were flooding out. Where's Eduardo in all this? He got anything to say? Another pause. Then, he thinks it would be good for you to reconnect with family. Let bygones be bygones. He said to tell you. He said he's willing to let the past stay in the past if you are. Willing to let it go. Like he was doing me a favor. Like his cruelty was equivalent to my absence, a fair trade we could both forgive. Tell Brianna congratulations, I said. Send me the registry. I'll send a gift. But I won't be there. Miguel, please. I have to go, Mom. Take care. I hung up, hands shaking. Simone wrapped her arms around me from behind. You okay? No. But I will be. The wedding invitation arrived in February 2020. Cream-colored, expensive cardstock. Brianna Lopez and James Shaw request the honor of your presence. I studied it, looking for something, an apology note, a personal message, anything acknowledging the years. Nothing. Just the formal invitation and a pre-addressed RSVP card. I sent a KitchenAid mixer and a polite decline. 2 weeks later, Eduardo called. First time I'd heard his voice since that Thanksgiving. Miguel. It's Eduardo. Like I didn't recognize the number I'd deleted 12 years ago, the voice that had told me I wasn't a real son. What can I do for you, Eduardo? Professional, distant, the tone I used with difficult vendors. Look, your mother's upset about the wedding. Brianna's upset. This is family, son. Time to put childish things aside and act like a man. Son. Childish. Act like a man. The audacity was breathtaking. I am acting like a man, Eduardo. I'm running a $75 million company, employing over 300 people, and maintaining boundaries with people who don't respect me. That's pretty adult. There you go with that disrespect narrative. I gave you a roof over your head for 5 years, fed you, treated you like my own. You told your brother I was baggage. You bought Brianna a car while I worked 2 jobs for a broken-down Corolla. You told me real sons don't ask questions when I questioned blatant favoritism. Which part of that was treating me like your own? Silence. Then, you were always so sensitive. That's why we could never connect. Always playing the victim. I laughed, sharp and bitter. You know what's funny, Eduardo? I spent years thinking something was wrong with me. That I was too sensitive, too difficult, not grateful enough. I went to therapy for it. That part was true. In 2018, Simone had gently suggested it. Dr. Coleman, no relation to my old manager, had helped me unpack years of conditional love and scapegoating. Therapy? For what? Because I didn't buy you a car. No, Eduardo. Because you made me feel like I didn't deserve to exist in my own family. Because my mother chose your comfort over my well-being. Because I was 17 and alone and convinced I was the problem. You made yourself alone. You walked out. You told me not to come back. Your exact words, don't bother coming back. I honored that. More silence. When he spoke again, his voice had shifted, calculating. Look, Miguel, I know we've had our differences. But you've made something of yourself. Forbes magazine, that's incredible. I always knew you had potential. Maybe we started off wrong, but that doesn't mean we can't have a relationship now. Man to man, businessman to businessman. I've actually got some investment ideas I'd love to run by you. And there it was. The real reason for the call. Not reconciliation. Opportunity. My success had made me useful. Let me be crystal clear, Eduardo. I don't want your investment ideas. I don't want a relationship. I don't want to come to Brianna's wedding and pretend we're family. What I want is for you to lose my number and never contact me again. After everything goodbye, Eduardo. I blocked the number. Then Mom's. Then the house phone I barely remembered. Simone found me on the balcony, staring at Atlanta's skyline. COVID-19 hit a month later, and the world went sideways. Urban Logics pivoted to essential deliveries, became a lifeline for underserved communities during lockdowns. Our valuation tripled. By late 2021, we were preparing for an IPO. I was 28, about to take my company public, and hadn't spoken to my Baltimore family in nearly 2 years. I didn't think about them much anymore. Therapy helped. Simone helped. Building something meaningful helped. Then Austin called in January 2022. Man, I got some news. It's about your mom. My stomach dropped. What happened? She had a stroke. She's at Johns Hopkins. It's serious, D. I sat down, world spinning. Mom. Noelle. The woman who'd worked double shifts to keep us fed, who'd braided my hair and taught me to read, who'd also chosen Eduardo over me again and again. She was human, flawed, mine. How serious? ICU serious. Miss Gloria's been up there. She said your mom's been asking for you. Of course she had. And of course Eduardo hadn't called me himself. Pride? Strategy? I didn't know, didn't care. I booked a flight to Baltimore that night. Simone came with me, no questions asked. Walking into Johns Hopkins ICU felt surreal, like entering a past life. Miss Gloria met me in the waiting room, tears streaming down her face. Oh, baby boy. She's gonna be so happy you're here. Was she, though? Or was this just another performance, another moment where I was supposed to show up and pretend? Eduardo was in the room when I walked in. He looked older, grayer. So did Mom, tiny in that hospital bed, wires and tubes everywhere. Her eyes opened when she heard my voice. Miguel, she whispered. I sat by her bed, holding her hand, thinner now, fragile. Simone stayed back, giving us space. Eduardo stood in the corner, silent for once. I'm here, Mom, I said softly. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I'm sorry, she whispered. For everything. I chose wrong. I was scared of being alone. And I chose wrong. Those words, a decade too late, still cracked something open in me. I know, I said, because I did. I understood fear, understood loneliness. I just wished understanding had come before the damage. She squeezed my hand weakly. So proud of you. Always was. Just didn't know how to show it without making things worse with Eduardo. I glanced at him. He was staring at the floor, jaw tight. You could have chosen differently, I said gently. But I forgive you, Mom. I do. She smiled, exhausted, relieved. We stayed for 3 days. She stabilized, began recovery. I paid for private nursing care, a better facility. Eduardo tried to thank me. I cut him off. This is for her, not you. We're not good, Eduardo. We never will be. He nodded, finally understanding some lines can't be uncrossed. I flew back to Atlanta, back to Simone, back to my life. Urban Logics went public in May 2022. I rang the opening bell at NASDAQ, thought about 17-year-old me walking out into that cold Thanksgiving night, convinced he was nothing. Mom recovered enough to see it on TV. She called, just to say she watched, that she loved me. We talk now, sometimes. Carefully. Bounded. Brianna sent a LinkedIn request I ignored. Eduardo and I will never speak again. And that's okay. Because I learned something in those 12 years. Family is what you build, not what you're born into. Real sons ask questions. Real sons demand respect. And real sons walk away when the answer is silence. I built an empire from that walk. And I'd do it again.